And we're good.
All right. Hello, hello. Happy Friday, everybody. My name is Tisha, and I am joined by Nate, my co-host out of Georgia, and we have Michael Lee. And if you look at that, the ticker at the bottom, the brilliant Michael Lee. He is the
That's right.
CEO of Reconciled out here in Arizona. And Nate, I have to hand it to you. I'm really loving these new little graphics, this little
Yeah.
header that you've got going on.
Whip that up on my phone like a real pro.
Like a real pro. All right. If you are tuning into this live, we welcome comments, we welcome hellos, questions that you have. And today we're going to be talking about how to create an amazing remote company that everyone is dying to work for. So if you are in that I've got to create this company, how do I do it? What do I do? What's the process? You're in the right place. I hope you'll ask lots of questions. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Nate. First question, please, Nate.
All right. Okay. Well, Michael, thanks for coming on. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So before I dive in, you run a virtual bookkeeping company, right? And so I know that you've got a lot of experience, obviously, for what you do, but you're also bringing to the table today talking about how you've built that into a remote working company. So the first question I want to ask is, what are the advantages to building a completely remote work company? Like, let's talk about some of those big benefits that a lot of people don't realize are out there for you.
Yeah. No, and first, thank you for having me on the show and having me here with you guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun today. Yeah, this is a really hot topic, obviously, because of COVID and the pandemic. It's accelerated the amount of companies that either have had to go remote or are thinking about starting remote in the first place. And we've been doing that for basically since the founding of the company. Reconciled's 5.5 years old. And so some of the big benefits of remote work and building a company that is locationless, right, and not co-located, is you get to decide on access to talent, whether you want to do it statewide, outside of your metro, in multiple states, across the country, or even across the world. So not only now can you hedge against low unemployment rates in certain parts of the country, in the world, you can go after top talent that are vying for your roles. So instead of wondering, I started Reconciled in Vermont. So wondering, well, can I find the best person for this best role in Burlington, Vermont, or the metro, or within driving distance to my office? Instead, I can say, well, can I find the best person in the world? Well, yeah, and that's very possible. And surprisingly enough, when we were entering into remote work, there were already, a lot of companies like in the software industry that were used to it, and tech companies, but there were definitely not accounting firms. We were one of the very few that were one of my minorities that was into it. So huge benefit to me is access to talent, and being able to find that talent and not let unemployment or low unemployment rates be a disadvantage to you.
Absolutely. I mean, when I started mine, we're all remote work, and the big thing about us was getting outside of that bubble of only having people where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
and not having to say, okay, if I want to go find the talent, used to, you had to go to Silicon Valley, New York, or some other big city, and if you weren't there, you were just out of luck. But the fact of the matter is you can literally run a company from the most cost-effective place in the world as long as you have good internet and you're good to go, right? So.
Right.
That was a huge benefit for us, I know. So we're talking about the benefits. Let's talk about the cons, because we don't ever want to give people just one side of the story. We want to give them both. So
Right.
talk about the challenges that you faced while building your remote work business.
Yeah, remote work business can be challenging, especially if you're an extrovert or somebody who likes to be around a lot of people, in proximity. So one of the challenges with remote work is it can feel isolating, right? So if you imagine your normal work week, let's say the average, white collar office person working 40 to 50 hours a week, in that time frame, we take for granted the fact that if you go to a physical office, you may have a few meetings during that week with your coworkers and with customers, but the physical presence you feel walking by the receptionist, stopping by the lunchroom, going to grab coffee, going to the water cooler, grabbing a coworker and saying, hey, let's go to lunch and grab a quick lunch. all those add up, and they can make up 40, 50, 60% of your day. It's these physical interactions that are both intentional and non-intentional. Well, when you go to a remote work environment, if you don't have intention around it, what can happen is you can have your intentional stand-up meeting or your staff meeting that happens during the day or during the week, but that's going to only fill up a couple hours of your week. And then maybe you have your customer meetings virtually, if you're vendor facing, you meet with vendors. So you're going, okay, well, what do I do with let's say I fill 10 hours a week. What do I do with the 30 hours that are left that I have no literal interaction with anybody? I'm just doing work. Now, so what happens is productivity seems to go up in the quick short run. But unless there's a sustained intentionality around human interaction, whether it's you going out for walks, going to the gym, going to meet people in your area just to take a break or get coffee, or if your company's unintentional about creating connection points for you to do touch-ins and check-ins, then you're going to begin feeling isolated. And what the studies have shown is that productivity that goes up immediately, eventually the long term starts going down because a person starts feeling isolating and less engaged. So in order to keep the engagement and productivity high, you have to actually be very intentional about scheduling both what we call intentional and spontaneous interactions. So scheduling spontaneity is kind of a weird idea, but you have to do that. The example I like to give is, for those of us who are in a relationship or are married or have a significant other, you want to believe that every single moment can be spontaneous and fireworks and romance, all this stuff. But the reality is, when you have two people that are both busy, or you're both raising kids or whatever, you have to schedule spontaneity. You have to schedule it into your life. So there's a level of discipline to say we need to make room and boundaries where spontaneity can occur. Right, we need to create the room and the boundaries where romance can be developed. So the same thing with employee engagement, the same thing with getting people's productivity still high. You need to create that room for them, and you create that intentionality for them. Otherwise, an isolated person will deal with the same things that an isolated person would have to deal with.
Right. I like that whole scheduled spontaneity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's something that we practice. A lot of people don't know it, but like I schedule time to touch base with everybody. Just so that we can. It's just me personally on my calendar. I'm not setting meetings. It's just more of just it's in my calendar to, hey, update this person, call this person, see how they're doing, things like that. I know another thing that we do is we make sure one of the biggest challenges we faced was keeping everybody on task. It's not so much making sure that they work; it's making sure that they're keeping the task and keeping the schedules and stuff like that. So because you kind of lose that 9 to 5, because we let people work whatever hours they want to because they've got kids at home, things of that nature. And so using task management with our planner app helps us out a humongous amount, because we're able to schedule things out, give an outlook, stuff like that. And I know that was our biggest hurdle to face, and that was how we fixed that, was just making sure that we create tasks for people to hit, and that's their quota that they have to meet. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of strategy around making this happen, and I think the more intentionality that you have, the more appreciation your team members and they'll begin noticing, oh wow, you've really created an environment where you care about us, you do want to check in on us, you acknowledge that there are limitations to remote work that proximity normally provides, and so we need to be intentional about those indirect times and intentional times, as well as the spontaneity. And we leverage technology to do that. And that's what we're doing right now, right? We're leveraging technology to have this conversation because we can't have it in proximity. And we're all different parts of the country and different parts of the city. And so that's a beautiful thing. So use it to your advantage while acknowledging, hey, not everything is going to happen well. It's hard to, it'd be great to be sitting in a bar with the three of you or a coffee shop and holding a physical drink with each other and videoing this. but we're able to take advantage of the convenience of technology to be able to have this conversation and then broadcast it to the world, broadcast it to an audience that's able to watch remotely with us, right? That can't be in the bar or the coffee shop with us, even if we tried. So I think that's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tisha, how have you been working? Have you seen a bit more of a transition for you? I know you used to do the public speaking and getting out and stuff, and I know you've had to kind of pivot. How have you dealt with challenges of becoming a remote work organization, without really prior planning to do so? It was just kind of spur of the moment for you, right?
I just had to dive in.
Mm-hmm.
Dive right into the deep end and start swimming. No, I'm just kidding. I think that because I've always worked in a way remotely too, Nate. I've never had employees and staff. I've always had contractors that work for me. And I love that. I love being able to be the entrepreneur, but not have to have all the paychecks and payroll and all of that stuff too, but still be able to service the clients. And like Michael said, I work with contractors all over the world. While I have some here that are local, I don't see them all the time. I give them the project and we start working together through technology, and we get the projects done for our clients. And we have really limited the amount of meetings that we really do need, and so I am working with people all around the world. And I mean, the speaking opportunities, as you mentioned, Nate, yes, it's a bummer. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
I'd love to still be in touch with, people during live speaking engagements, because I get such a high off of that. I feed off of the energy. I'm high energy already, but I feed off of the energy in the room. And it's been a little different. Not to say it's bad, but I will say this, this is my, okay, Nate, I'm giving you my little Convo and my Camry, preface here, but I talk about how I've gotten opportunities just in this week from Malaysia and from Monaco.
Wow.
What the heck?
Yeah.
Would I have gotten that? Those are a speaking gig and a book contribution. And that would never have happened had I just been only Arizona. I don't want to venture out of Arizona. I only want to do things here. So when you start thinking remotely and globally, those opportunities are out there. They're really out there. But if you're going to limit yourself, you're going to limit yourself and you're going to miss out.
And your audience just got wider and bigger, right? The audience right? Because what you have to offer, the value you have to offer is highly valuable to a certain kind of audience. And that population is one number in Arizona, but now globally it just became exponentially huge. And so that's great. And we all have that. Everyone has that unique value they can provide to an audience that normally would be small in their town or their city or their state, but now it becomes humongous for them. And I think that and that's what we learned with Reconciled as we built it was, I built it thinking, oh, small businesses in Vermont will want to work with me. And that's how most accountants' mindsets were. But when I realized quickly I could launch it virtually and provide all the services virtually with a US-based team that all was remote, well, the whole United States and all the 30 million small businesses in the United States were a target, where they were an opportunity for me to talk to. And so that's why we've been able to grow very fast. Because we'd be able to really provide value to a large set of customers throughout the country.
I like this because, Nate, even with your company, I'm sure you're not just working with people in Rome, Georgia.
Oh, no.
I don't even know where Rome, Georgia is. I had to ask my girlfriend.
We have less people where I'm based. But I mean, we don't necessarily have a base, but there's less people where I'm actually from that we work with than there is in other places. For a while, It was Atlanta, New York, and Houston was our biggest markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I will say this about COVID, the pandemic, the advantage of just in this year being able to take my business to a global scale, because now I'm able to mentor people from all around the world. And it's the coolest thing when I'm mentoring people and they're like, you have a friend in Monaco, you have a friend in Belize, you have a friend in Guatemala. I'm like, sign me up. Let's travel. Let's go. It's just the coolest thing to say that you know people in all these countries and you're making an impact on them. I think that's my high. That's my adrenaline of that never would have been possible had I just stayed in my little community, and so big benefit to being remote working.
So I got a question for both of y'all to answer, but Michael, you can take it first. With moving to remote work, whether it's your first start off point or whether you're going from an office to remote work, whatever the case may be, there's always that challenge of one, getting buy-in from either leadership if you're an employee trying to work remotely, or from the employees if you're leadership and you're saying, hey, look, we need to reduce costs, we're going to make you work from home, that kind of thing. But also clients. I know that was a big thing for me, especially, like I said, we've been doing this for 7 years now. So 7 years ago, when I would tell people we all work remotely, it was just like almost an automatic blackball for I don't know if you're legit or not. Like, that was always a concern, right?
Sure.
So how have y'all tackled that, those types of issues of getting buy-in from all three levels?
Yeah. So, well, thankfully, obviously, COVID's given you an amazing excuse, right? Accelerated and really industries and assumptions around remote work are almost all gone. They're really almost all gone. Industries that assumed you couldn't do it, you quickly find out how quickly you can do these things and the technology that's needed. It's just that most organizations and people were too lazy to implement them, and were unwilling to, because there wasn't trust created culturally in their organization with each other. And so if you're a leader, I would say first is I never encourage people to approach remote work as a cost-saving tool. It's not the strategy of why you do it. The strategy of why I do it is it's a business strategy. Do you want to create an environment that has a culture of remote work? And whether it's the primary culture or part of the culture, right? Some companies, it's only part of it, because maybe you're a manufacturing company, you literally have to have employees physically manufacturing. Or if you're Amazon, you have a warehouse. You can't remote work all the warehouse workers. So there's going to be some segment of the population that's remote work and sub-segment that's co-located or together. So you have to have a strategy around it. So if you're a leader, you want to think about it intentionally, strategically. I would not be leading with cost savings. That's not a very sexy, exciting, inspiring thing for your employees to go, they're doing this for cost savings. Yay. It's like, no. And so do it as part of your strategy. And you're going to have to put the resources in, and it may cost you the same amount of money. Resources in to make sure your employees are engaged, that their mental health is fine, that they get all the resources they need to, that they're moving to areas with the internet, right? With fast internet. So that's what we were talking about just earlier, that getting hardwired internet versus wireless internet. Some areas, like you have an employee saying, okay, well, I'm going to move to Belize now. And you say, okay, that's fine. They find out their internet doesn't work, or it's at DSL level, whatever. So there's all these additional costs that start adding up on a monthly basis that you don't think about, that you're not paying for right now when you're in an office. So I never tell people to go with that strategy. It's strategically look at how are you going to make this to your advantage as a company, and then how are you going to message it, like you talked about, Nate, message it to your customers. And so thankfully now for most customers, it's a non-starter. They but before we would tell them, and we would communicate to them the value of why we do things remotely is we have the best talent in the world or in the country servicing you. So we didn't limit ourselves to who we could find here to locally service you. And as you know, unemployment in most of the country before the pandemic, and in many fields even after, are still very low. So in accounting and finance, it hasn't changed. It is super low, accounting and finance unemployment. So telling them, look, I could have given you employees that were based here, but you would have had to wait to start. But instead, I had a bench of capacity of the best people in the world ready to serve you, and you're going to love them. And they want to work here. And because they're working from home, they're more productive, they're less distracted, and they're handling more customers like you. So those are huge advantages. You got to talk about the value of that. If a customer brings that up, which I think is becoming less and less of an issue anyways.
Yeah. What about you, Chicha?
I'm just looking at comments. but I like what you said, and I wrote that down, as you can't just lead, like it's not super sexy as you shared, Michael. We're going to lead with cost. Like that's why we're working remote. I mean, there's so many times. I remember working at an ad agency years before I started my company, and I was taking the work literally from my intern. I said, I will file that. I'll do all of that grunt work because I need something to do. So as we talk about productivity, I mean, I'm stealing work from my intern because I have nothing to do. where I could be doing something else and my productivity goes up if I am working from home. So I get what you're saying too, that some industries, it's not going to be able to work. You know, as you were talking about it, Michael, and you were saying Amazon can't do that. They absolutely have fulfillment centers. I'm like, how do you George Jetson that? How do I just just bring it to me by drone and it just drops in my lap? Like, how do you do that? You're still going to need those things. But I like what you're saying, and you know, being able to say I work with people, the best of the best of the best, all around the world. This is my team. I think that goes a long way. We do have some comments, and I just wanted to give some shout outs. Conrad Nelson on Facebook, and Nat on LinkedIn, and Barb Tucker Hoffman on Facebook as well. Barb said this, if you want to throw this up on the screen, Nate. Should I worked semi-remotely before the internet. We had a real estate company out of our apartment. We did get out to show homes, but we didn't have to pay for an office. And so again, I mean, not that we're leading with cost savings, but it is a cost savings. I work from my home, but I also have a co-working space 10 minutes away if I need those resources, or if my team needs those resources, or if we need a conference room, you know. So it's a cost savings, but there's a lot more benefit, as you shared. And then Nat Handler saying this, one of his comments: if a company feels remote work is beneficial to the sustainability of their brand, then they'll invest in the development of it as a resource.
Yes.
Very true.
No, that's great. I think one of the huge advantages to the globe around remote work is everybody is figuring out how to fully maximize the use of space. Right. So that home office that somebody used occasionally or once a week, they're going, okay, wow, all of a sudden their home office is this beautiful space, right? All of a sudden they appreciate they have it. And home buyers are buying homes with intention to have a home office. They're using that extra bedroom that sat as an unused gym. It's a home office now, and it's actually being used. Or you think about commercial offices. Now you're going, okay, wow, there's this glut of commercial offices all over the world now. What are the creative ways that we can be utilizing that? Well, housing is an issue in almost every major city. Why isn't there more housing? You know, why don't we shift things more? There's all this empty land that, you know, why are we building more commercial space on those? More housing so that people can live affordably in a major city. So there's this creativity that's has to be forced because of the pandemic and because of the situation we're in. It's being forced on everybody on the use of space. The other thing, the topic was like, how do you build a remote workplace for that some people are just dying to work for? One of the huge things around remote work is now, it used to be an advantage before the pandemic. Now it's almost an assumed, right? It's going to become an assumed, like you must offer a remote or option, right? Well, if not, I'm not even going to apply for the job.
Oh yeah.
So it's become now almost like table stakes, like to even like be competitive. And so now the question is how is your remote work environment better than anybody else's for the field I'm in, for the job I'm in? What have you done to ensure that I do feel like I'm connected, that I do feel like I'm a part of something bigger than myself? Otherwise, I'll just go apply somewhere else, or I'll just freelance. If you can't provide me as an employee of yours a better remote work environment, and that's really difficult for most companies who have never done this before, right? Or just starting out.
Right.
If you've done this for a long time, you have a huge advantage because you know what it takes to be advantageous there. But now you've got to step your game up just one more, because the flood of companies that have entered in the table stakes level is humongous now, right? Your competitors for talent are there. So that's the other thing, is really articulating, well, what are your advantages? And I think that's where your culture, and really articulating your culture and values, and describing those transparently to people, that's going to be a key to remote work. You're going to see more and more companies that were not as transparent have to become transparent about who they really are. And some of that's going to be, well, they got to get the ugly out first. and so that, you know, the real culture of why they're this great company to come work for is really there. And some companies are going to realize, while we don't have anything advantageous for our environment, it was only in person that was advantageous. We're going to have to figure out how to either keep that or shift our mindset. So there's going to be some interesting business strategies you're going to see with different companies out there.
I agree. I think it's going to be a big shift in education and everything, simply because now people are really going to have to adopt technology. Before you didn't have to. Let's just be honest.
Right.
For the past few years, people have been skating by. I know our business picked up because companies were basically being forced to adopt technology that's been out there for years that they just didn't want to. They didn't want to invest in. I think also we might even see a little bit of a change in economic status for a lot of people, simply because now, people without cars can still have a job. People don't have to worry about trying to catch 4 or 5 buses and subways and do all the things they have to do to get to some menial job. They can actually get, if they show they have the technical skills to do the job, they can get a better job and not have to worry about all the transportation going on. So I think it's going to be a great shift. I think we won't see the true benefits of it for a few years, but I think I think it's overall a progressive movement that I think is going to be a big positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, Nate has a comment or a question if you want to throw that up. So Michael can answer this. How do you see the remote work model evolving in the future? I can't imagine companies going to a full-time remote model. I see more of a hybrid model with 2 to 3 days at home and 2 to 3 days at the office. And I've seen that. I know I've seen that. My brother-in-law works in Silicon Valley, and he's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So 2 weeks, and he doesn't have a home office, Michael. So he has converted his garage into his office. Nice. And he's locked the door for my niece. He's like, I'm at work. Don't bother me. Like, I'm not here. I'm not here. But I know working for a tech company, he's like, I'm on 2 weeks. I'm off 2 weeks. I'm out, but I'm still working. So if you want to answer that question for Nat, what do you envision? Do you envision that companies are going to still adopt that model, or they're going to go one extreme or the other? We're all remote, or we kind of have, this more of a hybrid model.
I think it's all of the above. Just in case Nat didn't hear, Reconciled's a completely remote work company. We're 100% full remote work company. So unless I intentionally fly and travel or bring people together for something, I've got employees in 10 states and we don't see each other physically. Now, one thing we do is we try annually, before COVID, once a year or twice a year, I would actually fly all the employees to one location for a few days just to hang out and just to have fun. But other than that, there are companies running completely remotely. And so you're going to have that. So you're going to have more people join that club of completely remote. And then you're going to have companies that are going to do hybrid models, just like you described, Tisha. And then you're going to have companies demand to go back because that's the only way they can survive, right? So like restaurants that's really where they made all their money, and they're kind of limping by with takeout and drive-through. Even with takeout and drive-through, people have to go to a physical place and make the food, right? So like there's that. So you're gonna a lot of companies still say, hey, we have to start coming back because we still have 5 more years on these retail leases we've got. We still have products sitting there that's been sitting on the shelves. We got to sell it. You're going to see a lot of that. So it's going to be both and, but you're going to see a lot more swinging to remote work than was realized. A huge exponential number, because that's where the future is going. And they've all just invested into technology to do it.
Right. Which, is relatively inexpensive, I think. Nate?
Right.
Yeah, it's very cost effective to change to remote work, not just as an overall thing, but like everybody thinks that like when you make that tech push, it's going to be this expensive deal, and it's really not. In a lot of ways, you can actually save money. We've helped clients by shifting them to a remote hybrid system by all means, change their cost. We've reduced costs quite a bit due to the fact there's less equipment that's needed. There's a lot of software that gets cut out because they start looking at unified systems instead of ad hoc systems where they're paying way too much for all the different software pieces that they're using. So yeah, it's definitely a game changer.
Yeah. We have a couple more comments. Mark talks about ASU. ASU is doing a study on how COVID pandemic may change the future of transportation and work. That's a great study. I'd love to also see how that plays into it. And then Nat, Also saying it will also be interesting to see the long-term impact on company culture and how companies adjust. I'm thinking about companies that I've gone into, these big corporations that had the cereal bar and they had the ping pong table. And it's like, well, I guess I'll just be shipping you your cereal, to keep that going. But you think about, well, this is the culture we have. It's like, well, but as you guys have mentioned, this is a chance for you to get creative and still keep that culture or adapt and adopt new things.
What you do is you just bring Pong back and you can play each other on that virtually.
Right.
Yeah, you could do that. Could we go back to like the Wii games?
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? We'll just set those up. Everybody just hops on live. The company has live accounts for online gaming. Lets everybody, might do that.
Yeah,
hey,
I think
it's a good workaround. I like it.
I think the mistake that a lot of companies in the past have done, and even companies in Silicon Valley, is that they define company culture around material things we give to employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So benefits materially we give: cereal, ping pong tables, video game access, a gym. Those are fringe benefits. Those are compensation fringe benefits. They don't define a culture at all. Right? Those are just there. What really defines a culture are behaviors, core values, practices, disciplines, the types of people that you put up with or don't put up with, hiring and firing decisions, how you filter performance reviews. It's really people and what you hold as accountable and not accountable, right, in your organization. And that really shifts things because, it's just said, like, you can mail cereal boxes through Amazon. You can send mini ping pong tables and video game systems to homes. And most people have the things they want anyways, all those material things. You have them in your house anyways. We all have more than enough TVs. We all have more than enough food in our pantry, in the U.S. at least. Those things aren't the things that people think of when they define, why am I happy at my job? Why am I happy with my work, right? So meaningful, fulfilling work, a vision bigger than themselves, being part of something bigger that they can go climb a hill with other team members on. That's a huge value, and that's what defines culture. And so I think companies are quickly realizing, wow, most of our employees didn't care about the massage tables that were available, didn't care about any of these things. They really cared about the meaningfulness of their job and what they were contributing. And I think a lot of employees too are asking now, was my job meaningful? Is my job meaningful? Can I go find something else that is meaningful? And those big questions are also happening as well. So for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I know we're running short on time, and I know Nate's always backed up, and I have some other meetings to get to as well. But Michael, I just want to say, hey, thanks so much. First time being on a live stream, you nailed it. You nailed it, Mr. Brilliant. But we want to give you time to give us a shameless plug of how people can find you, and I know you have a strategy session that you want to throw in there too. So yeah, take a minute to say what's on the horizon and how can people connect with you.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Michael Lee, spelled L-Y. You can find me on Twitter, same thing. And feel free to reach out. I love connecting with new people. I'm happy to offer a free strategy session with anybody that wants to talk. My main company, Reconciled, provides accounting and finance services to small businesses. We are basically your back office remotely. So if you need support on that, or you just need to talk through anything from PPP to cash flow problems to how do I restructure my company financially, happy to talk and give you a free consultation, and come book time with me. So yeah, calendly.com/Michael Lee as well if you want to book the time on your own, on my calendar.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michael. And thank you to everybody who was tuning in to this live or catching the replay. We do go back and respond to all those comments. So if you missed this and are watching the replay and have a question for Michael, Nate, or myself, make sure you ask it there. And yeah, definitely connect with us. We're all on LinkedIn as well. So thanks, guys. Good to have you. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody.
See y'all.
Bye.